Find the value of the function for the given value of x. We have f of x, which is equal to negative times the greatest integer of negative x for when x is equal to 2.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the definition of the greatest integer function. The greatest integer function, as you can see here, pairs every real number of the greatest integer less than or equal to x. So the first thing is that we need to identify is, well, of this definition, what are the integers? Well, remember that integers are the following set of numbers. Okay, so integers, okay, are the negative numbers, 0, and the positive numbers. Okay, so remember that integers do not include decimals, right? It's either negative, 0, or positive values. So when we look at this first example here, we want to find the greatest integer of 8.4. Okay, well, first of all, we know that 8.4, because it's a decimal, is in between the two numbers, 8 and then 9. But that means that 8 is the number that's going to be less than or equal to 8.4. So therefore, that 8, okay, represents the integer that's less than or equal to 8.4. And therefore, that means that the greatest integer of 8.4, the answer is 8. Okay, let's take a look at the next scenario or the next example. Okay, here we have negative 5. Okay, that is an integer. It's not a decimal. So we know what number is either less than or equal to negative 5. Well, the answer is negative 5. So therefore, that answer is negative 5. So the greatest integer of negative 5 is going to be negative 5. Okay, let's take a look at another scenario here. Okay, we have pi, right? Now remember, what does pi represent? Well, we know it's 3.14, and I'm just going to leave it as 3.14, but it can go on and on. So what number or numbers are so 3.4 is in between what two numbers? Well, it's in between, what, 3 and 4. But remember, the one on the left is the one that's going to be less than or equal to that number. So therefore, this answer is going to be 3. So therefore, the greatest integer of pi is going to be 3. Okay, and let's do one more here. Okay, so here we have negative 6.9. Okay, so remember, it's going to be less than or equal to here and then less than here. So what is the number that's less than negative 6.9? Well, that's negative 7. And what number is greater than negative 6.9? Well, that is negative 6. Okay, now again, we want to make sure that the number that is less than or equal to negative 6.9 is negative 7. So therefore, our answer here is going to be negative 7. Okay, now let's take a look at our example here. All right, so it's telling us that we want to find, okay, this is f of x, which is equal to the negative of the negative x greatest integer function. Okay, now you notice here that x is equal to 2.5. So that means we have f of 2.5, and then we're going to plug it into this function. So we have a negative, the greatest integer function here. So let's go ahead and put that symbol in there. All right. So we have negative, and then that's 2.5 that we're substituting in for x. Okay, so now what we need to do is down here, right? we want to find what is the greatest integer of that number of negative 2.5. Well, remember that we have negative 2.5, and what two numbers is negative 2.5 in between, where it's less than or equal to on the left side and then less than on the right side? Well, that means this is negative 3 over here, and then this is negative 2. So, because that means that negative 3 is less than negative 2.5, and negative 2 is greater than negative 2.5. And then remember, what we want to do is we are finding the number that is less than or equal to x. Well, the number that's less than or equal to negative 2.5 is negative 3. So now we're going to go ahead and then set this equal to negative 3. So now what we want to do is we bring down the negative sign, because that's on the outside, and we determine that this answer is negative 3. Okay, so what's a negative times a negative? Well, that becomes a positive 3. So therefore, for this function, f of 2.5 is going to equal 3. Let's go ahead and put our answer in here. So our answer is 3. Let's check the answer, and there's our result.